Hello and welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking from indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, how to try to F it up, in a very, very humble opinion. I am Giles Alderson, and we are delighted to have on the podcast today the fantastic Jessica Hynes. She's an amazing actress. You will know her from Spaced, or from Years and Years, or 2012, or Paddington 2, or Nativity Rocks, or Bridget Jones 2 or 3, or Shaun of the Dead, Confetti, The Magicians, or Doctor Who, or a film I love, Son of Rambow. But she's also a writer. She wrote Spaced and Learners, which is on BBC One. She's also produced and she's also directed the fantastic film The Fight. It is so good. We are going to talk about that today. We sit and talk with the lovely Jessica all about why you need to leave the actor at the door when you're directing. We also talk about working with DOPs, colours and themes, and why she brought extra eyes to set with her to work certain scenes. And we also talk about working with great directors. The Fight is an incredible film. I loved this movie, and it stars Jessica Hynes as Tina Bell, who is determined to ditch the dysfunctional and beat her inner demons. So she puts on fighting gloves, stepping into the boxing ring to punch up her self-worth. It stars Jessica Hynes, obviously, as Tina, Rona Mitra, Sean Parks, Robert James Collier, Sally Phillips, Anita Dobson, Alice Lowe, Christopher Fairbank, and the fantastic Kathy Tyson. Russell Brand also makes a cameo. It is produced by Maggie Monteith, David Wade, Noel Clark and Jason Mazza, who in fact put us in touch. So thank you, Jason, for setting this up. And I'm delighted to be co-hosted with today Christian James, who has not only directed the wonderful Freak Out, the amazing Stall, but also the wonderful Fanged Up, which is out now and you can go watch. How are you doing, buddy? You alright?
Good, buddy, thanks. Yeah, all good. How are you?
I'm alright. Last time we spoke, it was Christmas, and you were on the Christmas special, which was a 2-hour marathon, which people loved.
Oh, good. Yeah, good. Yeah.
How has things been in terms of movies for you? Have you moved things forward? I know you were about to shoot.
The project I had, it was a sort of a TV pilot, I think you could put it as, which was in development with a decorated author. That was in the works, and we got cancelled just before lockdown. We were due to start filming a week and a half. But yeah, sadly shame. But that still might be happening. So we'll see. Well,
fingers crossed that comes back. I've been spending a long time, obviously, in the edit at the moment for The Stranger in Our Bed.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's really well, well. It's wonderful to see it all come together and go, actually, that works. That's really nice. A lot of it is really fantastic, if I do say so myself at the moment, and it's a really rough edit, so I'm saying fantastic because normally when you see a first cut or rough assembly of anything, you go, oh my god, this is horrible. So I feel in a really nicer place with it than now I can play. Me and Ollie, the editor, can really dive in. So I'm in a really good place with that. Writing a lot at the moment, scripts, showreel, getting all sorts of stuff together so that as soon as things open up soon, because they're going to,
yeah.
And even though now we can still make films right now, and TV, it's harder, it is difficult, people are being a little bit more wary, hence why yours got shut down, but it is doable as long as you're prepared and ready. I feel that's you're in a good position to make that happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we should get to today's episode with a fantastic Jessica Hynes, myself and CJ. Sit back, relax, and enjoy our wonderful chat, because she is ace. Enjoy.
Hi there.
Hello.
How you doing?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, it's kind of sunny and beautiful. As it often actually is in Folkestone. So I've just for a nice dog walk, which was really nice.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. We've taken our dog out already, but it's not a nice day here in London. This is CJ, Christian James, otherwise known as CJ.
Hi, Jessica. How you doing? You all right?
Good. How do you two connect? What's your story?
Well, CJ's a director, and back when I was acting, CJ auditioned me, I suppose you could say.
Yeah. God, that was for a thing that never happened actually. But yeah, then we just hit it off.
Was it something you were directing, CJ?
Yeah, way back in the day. Something what you naively had this. Giles, we talked about this earlier. This a film that was way too ambitious, and we were going to change the world as you do, and we were probably looking for millions of pounds, but a film just because of our friends were in it, and it was ex-grads, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we're like, we're going to raise 2 million.
Please tell me more about it, because these are all it's fascinating, incredible to think of the kind of graveyard of these ideas. I always think that's a credit to Luc Besson. The Fifth Element was exactly that, wasn't it? It was his fantastical dream that he had, and he wrote down when he was 16, and he actually got to make it, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, in fact, two of them, because it was Fifth Element and Valerian. This was another one of his kind of.
I didn't watch Valerian, and I don't know why. It was one of those where I thought I don't need to watch that, but perhaps I was mistaken.
Technically, it's stunning, but it does feel somewhat like it's written with the impatience of a 16-year-old. It's really weird, so it's very strange.
But Fifth Element doesn't feel like that at all. I don't think it's a kind of an imaginative sort of futuristic sci-fi classic, I would say. But yeah, so what was your film called?
Was it? It wasn't Big Cats, was it? It was the one before Big Cats.
Oh my god, I love it already! I want to see it.
No, I think that was the next one. What was the one?
But Big Cats did lead. So Big Cats was the big one. That was like because after the one that didn't happen, what was
it called? What was that called again?
Well, I can't talk about. I think that script is still floating with somewhere. So I don't.
We might see it.
No. It hasn't been made, but I think it may be made one day. Basically, Jess, all we do is promote our own stuff.
It's very true, Jess. Very true. And listen, look, talking of promoting films, the fight is amazing. We do really want to dive into that because it's such a cool film. And the fact that it was your debut movie, right? I mean, I know you've done so much on TV, and I know, but was it I was trying to figure it out, and I presume it is, but I just wanted to check with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the first film I've made. There was perhaps a point where I was maybe trying to direct a short film, and it was very difficult to get that going, and that just kind of went by the wayside. So when I kind of dived in with The Fight, I was just like, here we go, I just going to do it. Very much inspired by Alice Lowe, who actually interestingly had the same DOP, Ryan Edelston, and his confidence really helped as well. Similarly, we had a very short sort of time frame. That whole kind of micro budget quick movie thing was really pioneered by Jamie Adams, who was just absolutely passionate about trying to make movies with no money in a very small amount of time, which is how you do it. A 5 or 6 day shoot with a very clever, agile cinematographer and camera operator, aka Ryan Edelston, and it's possible. And so Jamie, that was prolific, really. He could get funding and support by attaching a star that was bankable enough, at least for the very small outlay for the budget. So the investors were comforted by the presence of these kind of American stars who were happy to kind of fly over and do these films on the hoof because they were only a week commitment, a week, maybe 8 days commitment. So it's a very good, I think, model for micro budget filmmaking. And for a time there was money there for that. It's changed now, but and I basically worked with Jamie on a film he did. It was initially I can't remember the title of it, but it's Songbird now, I think it was called. It was originally a different title, and I worked on Songbird, met Ryan Edelston. No, I didn't meet Ryan Alderson on Songbird, actually. He came to me later. He had done all Jamie's films prior to that. There was a different DOP on Songbird. But basically, as a result of working with Jamie Adams, I got to meet his financier, Maggie. Maggie Monteith was financing all these micro-budget films for Jamie. And she sidled up to me in the kitchen on set and said, have you got any ideas? And I said, actually, as it happens, I do. Which is kind of why I was there. I think I was actually very curious as to how Jamie was making all these films and how this was happening. And once he had, well, I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying this, but he basically stalked me like he does all his collaborators, and he's just fearless and relentless. And he just says, so, when we do this movie, and you're like, Jamie, slow down. I'm not sure, but he's just got that really absolutely kind of determination and charm that eventually gets things done. And so, yeah, after I'd kind of agreed to do it, I think subconsciously it was because I wanted to meet his financiers, and I'm sure he kind of knew that too. So when I sidled up to Maggie, or Maggie sidled up to me, and she said, "Have you got any ideas?" I had one, kind of percolating that I thought would be really good for the micro budget model. It's all set in my hometown, so all the locations walkable, everything can be sort of localized, and it could be done really quickly. And Jamie was really keen to be involved and support that, exactly as he was with Alice. He's a most generous collaborator, Jamie. He genuinely enthusiastically wants other people to make films that they want to make. He wants to support creatives, and Dolly Wells as well, of course. So it was fantastic, really. So January 2017, I think, to July 2017 was basically the turnaround from Maggie saying yes to principal photography. So that's extraordinary, and it was kind of exactly what I was dreaming of. And so to get there was fantastic.
How much of the script was mapped out at that point, or was it? Did you have it all written, or was it, I got to write this as well?
Pretty much, apart from one sequence and one scene, which we really was after the first couple of days filming. Once we'd got footage done, and we were really finding our feet in our kind of 11-day, 12-day schedule, well, we were finding our feet and really kind of, it was going well. I really realized we were coming, I think, towards the end of the third day, and this scene was coming up, and we had Rona for one day only. She was flying over from LA for one day only. She was also one of the great sort of, performers whose kind of IMDb rating and kind of backlog of work and experience meant that she scored incredibly highly with investors, and we were extremely Rona Mitra. We were very lucky to get her, but they flew her over for one day.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's amazing, because I would never have guessed you had her for one day, the way you peppered her throughout the film.
Obviously I would have liked more time, but the one day we had her, there was one particular scene that really, because I hadn't had time really to really consider it, and when I knew that we only had her for one day, and I was thinking about the day's shoot and how realistically we were going to do it, and this scene was vital. It was a pivotal, important kind of dogleg emotional moment that needed to happen. It needed to involve her. It needed to involve Tina. Initially, actually, it did involve Emma, but I realized that we didn't need her in the scene. It was really Tina, Jordan, and Amanda who needed to be in that scene. So I sort of sat down and I said, we need to reimagine this. And so I basically sort of just talked it through and said, this is what we're going to do. Because I knew the location, because obviously it was local to me. I understood, and I'd walked around the location. Having been given this chance to make this tiny low budget film, I was be able to walk around the locations and really get and understand the physicality and where camera could go and light would be, and just the nature of the locations was really, really useful. And I said, look, the location, it's kind of it's multi-layered, so we can get some beautiful long shots, think kind of Kurosawa through the forests, in kind of, sort of Yojimbo kind of down through the leaves. And he was like, oh God, yes, no, I know, I've got it. And I was like, and this is what we're going to do. This is what's going to happen. And I mean, I don't think I even wrote it down. I think I wrote something vaguely down. I said, Dave, we're changing the scene. He went, okay. I said, he was just relieved, because I was just saying, we don't need that actor, we don't need that prop, we don't need that other actor, all we need is that and that. And he was like, fine, great. So that was really the only scene, and that was a scene in the river where Tina comes across Jordan and Amanda arguing through the trees and sees them, and it's a moment of change and reconciliation, really, for Tina, the protagonist. It's a moment where she can reflect and actually move through something, which is what the film needed at that point, and why that scene was so important, and why we couldn't have put it together without that. And we needed really Amanda to be part of it. The only thing I didn't get, which is what I wanted amongst many other things I didn't get, was a moment of reconciliation between Amanda and Jordan. And I wanted a shot where they were silently reconciled, and literally Amanda, the brilliant actress who played Amanda, had to be on a train at 8 p.m. She had to be on that train.
I'm glad you get saddled with these issues too. It's nice to hear that. It's like, very quickly, Jess, we should say spoilers for the film, but should we jump back and just can you tell us quickly what the film's, just I suppose give us in a nutshell outline of the fight?
I suppose it's about a family and a mother who is facing the stress of her daughter being bullied at school, then realizes that her daughter is being bullied by the daughter of someone she has a very complicated history with. And so while she's kind of, a little bit stretched out and tense, and harboring perhaps her own personal kind of baggage at the beginning of the film, this news about her daughter Emma being bullied really exacerbates it. And when she finds out that there's a connection between somebody she has some very, very key and pivotal memories of, it stresses her out even further, and it really just kind of raises the stakes. And it means that she has to kind of transcend the dysfunction of her history in order to deal with the circumstance of her present. And she does that by boxing training, really. So the boxing training is a bit of a red herring. I think, I remember talking about it and wanting to make it really clear that this is not a conventional boxing film,
It's great. It works so well. Yeah.
It really does.
Well,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that was another thing. I mean, we only had one day in the boxing ring as well. So that was, although we eventually had to negotiate another day, because I got punched in the face.
Oh, gosh.
I got punched in the face by a darling, actual, real boxer called Jessica, who wasn't a trained, stunt artist, and was so much better for it. Thank God we had her, because she looked like a real boxer and was a real boxer. And we had worked out and coordinated some moves, and we one day in the ring, and she clocked me, and I've actually still got a little dimple scar, but basically my face sort of started to push my headgear out to the side, and we just had to scramble and reschedule because we couldn't really film that day all the previous scenes in the boxing ring. So, and that was probably claimable, I think, on insurance, and so we did get another half a day in the boxing ring. But yeah, so she goes to the boxing room to train, and you realize that actually the demons are not just about Amanda. They're about her parents, about her past, about the very, very dysfunctional dynamic in her own family, in particular with her own mother. And that's really what the film becomes about. It becomes about her trying to deal with and move through this crippling dysfunction, which has ultimately caught up with her. And needing the strength, both physical kind of and emotional, to do that. And she finds that strength by sparring in the boxing ring.
So can I get you anything else?
I'm looking for another toy boy. That's the top of my list at the moment.
Jason? Oh, don't get it.
Ow,
Jason,
ow.
you get dressed now, please.
I missed you the stoplight the other day. Don't you remember when you were angry?
Okay.
No, I'm not okay. I'm going to kill someone.
Tina.
I'm leaving your father.
Right.
I've got to go now.
Tina?
Yeah, bye.
Anger's not a bad thing, but if you don't control it, it controls you.
Dad, what are you doing here? What have you done?
Your mum's thrown me out.
You need a break, okay?
I don't even know who we are anymore. I just feel like I'm just this tired, angry monster. Tina! Just keep walking, sweetheart. I'm just broken.
Your mother had a very difficult life.
I'm not that person anymore.
We need to move on.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Life is so bloody hard.
You still want to learn to fight?
Yeah.
First lesson, give up guilt.
I'm doing this for us. Somebody's got to fight.
You haven't changed, have you?
I have spent a lifetime living my dreams up here.
I just wanted to explain something I'd never really understood before.
It's brilliant. It's such a brilliant debut movie for nothing else, but I just wanted to run down the cast list so people understand when we're saying names of people when they haven't seen it, because they will be seeing it after they've listened to this. Obviously, you play the protagonist, Tina Bell. We've got Rona Mitra, who plays Amanda, and then we have her daughter, which is Liv, played by Jordan Chadwick, as was your daughter in the movie, Senia Nanua. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Fantastic, amazing.
So cool.
Young woman as well as amazing actress.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we've got Sean Parks as your husband, Sally Phillips as the teacher of Robert James Collier as Sean Parks's work colleague, Anita Dobson as your mum, Alice Lowe as a homeschool teacher in there, and then we have the fantastic Christopher Fairbank as your father, and Kathy Tyson. What a coup to get him. And then Kathy Tyson.
You know why he agreed to do it?
Boxing instructor. No, go on, please.
He said, I've never seen anybody deal with this kind of abuse. He said, I've never seen anybody actually touch on what it feels like when you're a man to be terrified emotionally and physically by a woman that you're in a long-term relationship with. He said, and that's why I want to do this. That's
gorgeous. There were so many of those moments in this movie that surprised us. Me and CJ were talking about it before we came on air, is that there was where you thought it was going down a certain route, and then it just turned on its head. And not to put spoilers in, but wow, it was just like, oh, that was just so delightful.
Thank you, guys. Oh, you make me cry. It's not, guys, I'm sorry to have to tell you this. It's not hard.
Yeah, let's do it. Toilets, there's a blockage. We can't get in.
I really felt like it was as I sat down to watch it, I really felt like it was going to be, okay, she's going to train to box, she's going to face off the old school bully, and not that it, again, I was happy, I was ready for that, and quite, because boxing films often are, their strength is the by the numbers and what you can do that by the numbers formula. So I was expecting that, and it wasn't. And every time I was, as Giles was saying earlier, there's a few nice surprises in there which totally turn it on its head, perfectly turn it on its head.
Had you always had that in mind when you were writing? Let's go back to you writing, because you've always written. Obviously, you wrote Spaced, or you're involved in, you all wrote that together, and you've written Learners and other bits and pieces. You've always been involved in that side of it. Have you written feature films before?
Not really, not like this. I've had ideas, lots of ideas, but to actually, I think where this was different is I was so sort of electrified and just excited that I was going to also direct it. I can't explain the bliss and joy of that, in having a freedom to say, to know that I was going to be behind the camera when everything was going to happen, to know that what I was trying to explain and express, that I was going to be able to play through on screen. That freedom and opportunity was electrifying and different from how I felt when I was just writing, because it feels like there's so much. And what I learned as well when I was filming was that the key thing that everybody tells you, but you don't really learn until you do it, is its story in pictures. You're telling the story in pictures, and I felt that my confidence in that notion grew immeasurably. It just in the days that I was filming, I understood that as every day went past, and I look at the film and I think that the areas that I engage with and am most pleased with are those areas where you don't need words. You're telling the story in pictures. It sounds very trite and obvious, but I think as a writer, it's much harder. In a way, it's harder to tell that story in pictures on the page. And when you get a chance to be a writer-director, you can really make that, make those decisions and make those calls when you're on set, in a way that you just you can't really when you're a writer trying to communicate to a director, because it's the director who will then carry it that much further and then make those kinds of choices.
How do you translate that in the script? So because it's a great point, because the film is really visual and so performance driven, and so much is said in what isn't said. So how do you communicate that to your cast, to your producers?
I am very shot driven. It could be a problem or not, I don't know, but I think in terms of shots, I write in terms of how things are going to look on screen, which I think is perhaps why I have ended up directing, because I think instinctively I've always written like that. I think a lot of writers now are so cinema and screen literate that inevitably writers will do that because they think of stories in terms of shots and screen as much as the director might, I suppose. And so I remember working a lot with a producer called Ruth Caleb, who is an amazing BBC producer and has made some incredible films. I was lucky enough to be in Tamara La Scala, which was one of the films she produced. I think she also produced Learners, and she's one of those incredible, formidable producers who used to. One of her sayings was, "A no is just a delayed yes," which which for filmmakers has to be your mantra, right?
That's great.
I mean, a no is a delayed yes. I mean, not even like a maybe. It's going to be a yes. Just give it some time. If there's something you want, just keep going for it. But she was also fantastic on script and storytelling, and actually so many notes that she would give me when I was writing with her as a writer, not as a director, are the ones I remember. And when you work with a really good producer and on a script, you kind of begin to, especially over a long period of time, you begin to second guess their notes. You think, oh, I know what they're going to say, so I might as well do it now. And they're right. Or you go, I know what they're going to say, and actually there's a good reason why I'm not going to do what I think they're going to say, and then I'm going to be able to hearify it. But her notes were always fantastic, and I think that's how I approach things, just stage by stage, just remembering all the kind of great notes I've ever been given by producers, and just always trying to keep a very, very forward momentum kind of narrative with characters that are constantly in kind of folding back in on each other.
Did you put notes on your wall before you started to sit down and write this? Had you written out a treatment, or did you just dive in?
I actually wrote a script, to be honest. I mean, they said, don't write a script. I was like, I've written a script. I've written dialogue. I've written a script, and some actors really, really responded to it, and liked having a script and wanted to say the lines. And then in other cases, the lines did not serve the scene well enough. And I felt, bad in that instance, because obviously, then I'm putting those actors in a position where I'm saying, okay, I don't know what I'm going to say, but, you just say that, and then I'm going to think of what I'm going to say, but you just keep saying that anyway. Obviously that's not the ideal way to work, I suppose.
No, you're right. Not all actors are capable of improvising or finding things.
Or willing to
yeah.
do that. But,
no.
I was lucky in that everyone was willing to do that.
Did you know that was your style going in? And did you prep them for that? I mean, as in, were they...
Yes. Absolutely. I said, absolutely. I said, this is the script. You can follow it if you want to the letter, but we can play around on the day if you feel more comfortable doing that, and really my focus was them constantly. I think genuinely, if I could not have been in the film, I would not have been in the film. But I think that part of the deal is that I was also in the film, like I said, 3 for the price of none, which is basically
yeah.
what it was.
How was that directing? Because same to you, Giles. Because I cannot get my head around directors directing themselves and how. Because when I'm directing something, be it a film, commercial, whatever, there's so much going on. I cannot comprehend having to then step in front of the camera.
You literally forget that you're doing it. You leave all your shots to the end. You try and be in it as little as possible.
Yeah, but you're in every scene. You're almost in every scene, pretty much.
Yeah, but I would absolutely focus and concentrate on finding, the moments with the other actor and making the actors feel really comfortable in doing what they were doing, and then by then, we would have a very clear idea about where I needed to be in relation, positionally, and also perhaps also kind of emotionally to the other actor. And then we'd go, right, turn around, and I would get 1 take, 2 takes, maybe, if I was lucky, and then we'd just move on, because that's how it had to be. And actually it was quite liberating working like that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, well, your character's quite, it's quite down as well. It's not like happy-go-lucky, I can bounce in.
No design on that's just how it came out. I really
but it was
moving on.
Yeah, just take what you've got and move on. But was there but because obviously you're a lovely person, you're bouncing around, but yet you've got to play this darker character. Was that fine to jump in and out of that? I mean, you've been doing it your whole life.
Yeah, it was fine.
But you play characters with a lot of it. I mean, you've got a lot of energy yourself. I think that comes across on screen in a lot of the characters you've played. But in this, I suppose I get your point, Giles. You're playing. I haven't seen you do stuff like this as much. So, A, you're giving out a terrific performance, and B, you're directing too. So you're giving it something quite unique and new that I've not seen you do so much before. I mean, I'm sure you have done things along these lines, but certainly it feels a bit more of a challenge. And how do you not, playing a more somber character? How does that then not bleed into? Okay, cut. Great, right, guys, got to turn around and do another shot. How do you then snap into normal Jessica?
Just from having been an actor for so long that you very obviously I knew the scenes, and I understood perhaps what the scenes entailed. I mean, I was always cutting my lines constantly.
Really,
Thank
just
God.
get rid of it. Get rid of it.
Yeah,
I'll just say nothing.
You're not going to say no. I'm not going to say anything. Just that's fine. It's fine. Yeah, just do that. Don't need it. Which is often the case.
It's true. In the edit, you get there and you go, "Oh, I wish I hadn't got them to say that."
Oh well,
line.
the edit.
Cut around it.
With Anna Dick, who was the first and main editor, there was we had a director come on late on for a week or two, but Anna was the main editor, and but me and Anna had a lot of fun talking, and our joke was mainly, I would always, whenever we were kind of, there were times when you naturally you look through footage of and takes of all the actors, because you're trying to make the scene in the edit, and I was always very disparaging about myself in the first
person way. She didn't do well there. Was it that kind?
Look, oh Jesus, will you stop? It's just too much, but which would entertain us and make us laugh. But I think that's probably the most painful thing is editing.
Do you have to lean on Anna a lot?
I think she would put things in that I would take out sometimes.
Yeah.
She would say, whoa, slow down. Hold on a minute. And I'd go, yeah. And she'd go, no, I think that's objectively speaking. And obviously she was more objective as an editor, because she wasn't both the performer and the director, which is what I was. Sometimes we would really agree on things when they worked and they were great. And then there were times when perhaps I was a bit harsh. But I loved the freedom of being completely unself-conscious as a performer. I think that was the part on set that I liked the most, is that I really don't like to think about how I look or what I look like. I really don't like to have a function that is about how I look at all. I like to be free, and in that sense, this was massively liberating.
Well, that's lovely to hear, because those scenes specifically, there's so many in there that you just excelled. It was so great to see you do that. But also with like your dad and the scene when your mum came in, those kind of scenes where you just stood there listening was just heartbreaking and beautiful.
Revelation, right? Wasn't she amazing?
But this is the thing. So I was surprised as well. But why are we surprised? Because she's
been on the stage for years. I've seen her do loads of stuff on the stage.
Hasn't done much of this.
Yeah, because she's so good.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And I was scared. I was genuinely like, I think this is I felt sorry for her, but then by the end I'm scared of her, which is like, it's amazing.
That was absolutely exactly how I wanted to shoot that, like almost like a horror film.
Yeah. It's
like a thriller.
Yeah.
Like her presence becomes this kind of looming, terrifying, like monstrous
matriarch.
When the little girl comes in and goes, oh
yeah, your character's Tina went back to that level of, I have got to be strong, I'm the parent now, but yet at the same time that's your mum, and you went back down to little girl.
Incredible happy accident as well when we were filming there, because when I found that location, because I was pretty much a location finder, and I found that flat through a friend. I said I need a really quiet flat with no airplanes over, just dead quiet. And then my friend said, oh, my friend's got a flat, and I went around and saw it. I was like, great. And I saw opportunities for depth of filming, and I thought, yeah, we could do this. I was like, we'll paint that wall. I was like, you up for that? You okay? Can we paint there? Can we paint that?
Like, yes, please.
Give me the cash.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was like, fine. So, but there was a fantastic happy accident that really fed into that confrontation scene where I was like, I need the dad coming down from the garden. I need him coming outside, because all the window was blocked up in the blind. I said, so we need to take all of that off. So it was like off. And everyone were frantically cleaning up the glass, because I wanted to create the biggest possible triangle between the three kind of the depth and the distance, and this fantastic accident when the dad comes back down the steps and the mum and Tina are staring at each other, and then the dad comes down into the crosshairs of the sash window.
Yes.
And it was like, that is brilliant, and he's basically kind of in her sights
going to shoot him.
Yeah. And it was like, I think filming like this is often when those kinds of little magical little things can happen. When you're not too sort of overburdened with, planning and pre-planning, you can move and adjust and make the most of those things, I suppose.
Yeah, well, but those happy accidents sometimes are the best. You can plan and plan and plan, and then suddenly something happens, and you go, "Look at that!" Or you see something new that you'd never seen. It's just wonderful. Things like that are incredible. We talking there about shots and planning. Let's talk about working with Ryan Edelson here, your DOP. Let's talk about him, because you as a director, obviously, when you're acting, you're doing your scenes, he's also working the camera and looking at, and obviously you've talked about it, but talk to me about your preparation with him and then how you were on set.
From the minute I spoke to him on the phone, he said, "Tell me all your inspiration." He said, "I want to know what films you want me to watch. I want to know what you want to capture. I want to know how you want to do it. I want to know." And I said, I absolutely, from the beginning, I said, I want this to look as filmic and beautifully lit as we possibly can. I said, I don't want this to feel handheld. I don't want this to feel I want this to feel as grand and cinematic as we can possibly make it, and if it takes us, I said right from the word off, I said, go, word off, the word off.
The word off.
The word off, right from the word off. I said, if it takes us, an hour to light something, and then I only have 15 minutes to get the scene, I said, I would rather do that than something not look as beautiful as it possibly could. I said, I did absolutely, and basically I was true to my word, every turn as well, because he, I got him to watch Apu, the Satyajit Ray trilogy.
Sure. Yeah.
And he was like, wow.
Yeah.
He was like, no, I'm well into that. And he just, because he so absorbed that as an inspiration, he would while we were basically setting up shots, he would then say, do you want a close-up of the little boy? Shall I get some lavender? Because there's a lot of nature, still shots of nature. So in terms of a creative collaborator, he could not have been more willing, able, and enthusiastic about getting on board with my creative vision. Like, he was just not only brilliantly skillful and quick, he was interested in what I visually wanted in a way that was just 150% supportive, and I think made the experience just fantastic, really, as a creative experience, because he was so willing to engage, and he would kind of get lavender and bumblebees on the rushes, and then I would watch them. I would say, and then I would go, okay, nice lavender shots, too much moving, slow down, more bees, and so there were those details, and he was just like, yeah, great, absolutely happy to do that. Talked about color a lot, and I said, which is why I had the walls painted in the flat, and I was like, very important to really. I also had a really great colorist who was it Max. Oh,
what was the reason behind I really liked it, by the way. I thought it was great.
We did a lot of grading. We did a lot of color grading once the film finished, so we got to pop out the colors. But the whole inspiration of the film was the red walls of that boxing
gym.
And
yeah,
that itself was sort of part of how and why I wanted to film in there, because it was just so beautiful, the light and the color. But so color was a massive part of how we would try and frame things up. But also post-production, I had a fantastic colorist, and
Max Horton.
Yeah, that's it, Max. I couldn't remember his second name, Max, but we managed to draw those colors out. But for an example of, say, how me and Ryan would work together. We were in the factory. A local boss had agreed to come and let us film for free in his Plamel factory, and even we employed a couple of his workers on a sort of an essay basis. So we paid them an essay wage to come and be in the background of Mick's work in conversation with his other workmates. And one of them is kind of casually it's casual sort of everyday racism that Mick doesn't really ever confront, but he is uncomfortable with it. That's all I can say without giving too much away about the scene. And it's kind of working scene. And I was looking at the set and I was thinking it's a perfect tracking shot. And we had a movie.
Nice. Okay.
No tracks, only ever a movie, but that was kind of enough. And I was like, right, I want to track down through the factory, following them. And this was the point at which the first and I hadn't quite got the measure of me at that point. And he was like, "You've only got an hour to do the scene." I was like, "Well, okay. Well, how long does it take to get the movie up?" And Ryan said, "It'll probably take about 45 minutes to set everything up." I said, "Well, that's fine. We'll get the movie set up in 45 minutes. I'll rehearse the scene with the actors and the time, and then we'll shoot it in 10 minutes. And Ryan was like, "I can do that." And I said, "We can do that. Okay, David, that's what's going to happen." He was like, honest, once we did that.
Yeah, he saw you could do it.
Literally, we rehearsed it, again and again and again for timing while the movie was getting set up. And David saw we got it in the first take. We did 2 others. We didn't need them. The first one was perfect. And, it basically tracks down through the boxes with them and then pans round as they all exit out into the big kind of factory sort of backlit with a white thing. And the scene is a tiny, lovely little scene, and it's beautiful. It's perfect. And I had the confidence in Ryan to say, he had Kev, who was who was chief gaffer lighting
guru person, did everything,
being just there on the getting the poles up, getting the whole thing set up in 0 seconds flat.
It's amazing when you can get a team like that and they're so on it. But what you said there about rehearsals, and it's so hard on an indie film to have rehearsals. You just don't. It's like, say, you're flying in Rona for a day from LA, so when the cameras are being set up, it's a perfect time to rehearse. So by the time your camera's up, it's like, well, he's seen you do those, the actors are ready,
we're ready for you, let's go. I always think that, there's I love rehearsing.
Is that from experience, Jess? Because you've been on sets where you haven't, you're thinking, well, we could have rehearsed right now, and have you wasted a lot of time on sets where you're like, I could be rehearsing?
I mean, it's different every time, and which is why, to be honest, I love what I do, because there's nothing the same. Every director is different. Every set is different. Everybody works differently. Actors work differently. The process is obviously there's parallels in the process because it's what you're trying to do is tell the story always in one way or another. But everybody does that in a completely different way and approaches it in a different way. But when you do have such a tight budget and such a short time frame, you just have to use every single second, and it's liberating being able to do that, having the opportunity to do that.
I'm fascinated as well because there's no doubt in my mind that you can give actors everything they need and more. So that sort of thing's covered. When it comes to the technical side of things, because I remember I think I heard an Alec Baldwin interview, and he's saying he knows so much about the camera just by virtue of
standing
being on
next
set.
to
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So do you think did you have to go out your way to learn anything technical to do this? Because with that tight budget and schedule in mind.
Okay, this is embarrassing, but I'm an honest person. I'm telling you honestly. This the only technical thing the only technical thing, I was working with Ben Miller on Paddington 2, and I was basically gearing up to do the fight, and I was saying to Ben, I'm just about to direct a feature film, so he said, wow. I said, yeah, and I've known Ben for years because I used to work on Armstrong and Miller's sketch show, back in the day. And so
of course.
I was saying, I've got to make a confession. I said, can you just explain to me and this is like only a couple of years ago, just in terms of the camera, exactly what does crossing the line.
Even though you've probably done it a billion times or not done it yet.
He said, it's like offside. He said, it's like the offside rule. I said,
good. Yeah, it's good.
I said, I know that. I don't know what the fucking offside rule is either. And then he said, it's so simple. And then he explained it to me. And I was like, is it that simple? He said, yes. I was like, and that was it. That was the only thing I was worried about, because I was in my mind thinking, I don't quite visually, literally know. And then I knew, and then I was like, I know everything else.
Why we're making our very first feature film, which was all shot on 16mm, and so we just couldn't afford to make it. I sort of didn't know the rule exactly. So I ducked out for a weekend and I made a short film with Dan, who I sort of collaborated with. We made a series of sort of these little short films, and I was secretly really just learning how to work my way around that rule, but not telling anybody, because I don't actually totally fully, and then I got it. Yeah.
When you first start, why would you know these rules? Why would you? People get it so wrong. It's amazing.
But I think it works. If you've got two people in a room talking, you're not going to fuck it up. But when you bring a third or a fourth person into a scene, then as an inexperienced director, you're like, oh, now what do I do? You know, because I've shot it all this side. And that becomes a problem. So I think you have to have that. You need to know where you can fail rather than that. So you can get stuck very, very quickly if you're not careful.
You can. So it sounds like you had so much fun with Ryan. You trusted him, which is so important to do that with your DP, to anyone on set, your firsts, every crew member, your gaffers, even your SAs.
When I was in the boxing gym, my brother is also a director and an editor. And I told him that I was making my film, and I said, I've got a day in a boxing gym. I said, I'm directing it, but I'm also doing fight sequences and boxing in the ring. I said, and I really need another pair of eyes. I need an editor behind the camera, making sure I'm getting all the shots, because I want to be able to cut this together. I want to be able to cut these fight sequences together. And I said, and there are eyes in the room. I said, but I want an editor there, and I would like you to be there. Could you do me a favor and come down for the day's filming? And he said, of course I will. Of course I will. I'll make sure that you've got what you need, so you can, like, whether it's just an extra cutaway shot, over the shoulder, or whether it's a cutaway to a glove, or making impact, or whatever it is. I said, obviously, to a certain extent, I'm going to be across that. I said, but as I am in the ring with headgear on, getting punched in the face, I said, I will not feel 100% that I know by the end of the day that I've got what I need, unless you're there, or unless someone else is there, just making sure. So he said, yeah, I'll come. So he came for the day. He's a prolific sort of editor, director. He's worked on sets all his life. He's great. He was really taking on board the help he was giving me. So he was asking questions about the lighting guys. He was asking, and they knew he was coming, but at the same time, eyebrows, within the first half an hour, Ryan and his team were kind of like, what the fuck is happening? Jessica is our director. This dude, who is supposed to be coming and just kind of observing, is what we would say, kind of interfere, and Jim, my brother, is like is a kickboxer, and he's quite I'm sure he wouldn't mind being called an alpha male. He's an alpha male. Ryan, I heard from the corner, he said, right, that's it.
Shit.
I do not like alpha males. I do not appreciate your voice on this set. He said, there's one voice I want to hear. It's Jessica's. I do not. He just dominated.
Wow.
I turned around, and to be honest, I by then had really got the measure. I loved Ryan. I totally loved him as a man. I know my brother Jim. He is also a wonderful man. So I knew this was not going to end badly. I just was like, to be honest, I was kind of enjoying it.
I'm taking punches in the face, but you're taking punches with words.
The thing is, Jim didn't take it personally. He was basically saying he wasn't into arrogant male energy. And my brother is a wonderful, human, fantastic person. He knows I love him. And I know that's not what he is. He was just doing what he thought I wanted him to do.
And short term, it probably came across that in that sort of alpha-y kind of...
Ryan was protecting not only me, but also his crew, and saying, don't worry, guys, Jess is still in charge. I'm still in charge. This guy's here to help, not to boss everyone around. And Jim's feathers were totally unruffled. He just went quiet. Ryan just said what he had to say. I didn't get involved at all, at any point. I never said anything. I just was like, hey. And then Jim was like, don't worry, mate. Okay. And Ryan was like, are we clear? And Jim said, absolutely clear. And that was it. That was the end. And then by the end of the day, they were like best friends.
So nice.
They totally loved each other. And we got the shots, and I got punched in the face. And Tyson, who you forgot to mention, who was phenomenal on that
Yes.
day, you know,
Yes.
and a great, like, and gave a great performance. And, you know, we actually shot that scene where she's on top of the stairs and she's looking down at me. That was the one, that was the scene that we shot after I got punched in the face. That was the only one we thought we could get away with before my eye just went.
I'm still amazed you shot all that in one day.
We had one day filming, and then we had half a day, supposedly half a day, to pick up what we lost after I'd got punched. It was intense. It opens up so much possibility, because you kind of think, if you plan and you have a clear vision, particularly if you have a clear vision about the emotional beats you want, and you have a clear vision about how you can tell the story with those emotional moments, and you know that you really, every time you get to a scene, you know what the vital moments are, which is often the privilege of a writer-director. Often as a director, you're still searching for those, and you're following the script in order to find them maybe in the edit. But as a writer-director, particularly if you're close to the project, you know what those emotional moments are. So you know what you need, absolutely need, and are much more able and in a position to say, okay, we don't need that. We don't need that scene. I don't need to ask anyone. I don't need to ask permission, and I don't need to think about it. I can tell you right away, if we're running out of time and we've got that and that we don't need. If we get that, great, but that is what we do need. And we'll have a hole in the film if we don't get that. Then I think if you have that confidence to know the emotional story you're telling and how you're going to tell it, it means that you can move that quick. And the advantages are, you know, for example, you know, there's a scene in a tunnel between Tina and Amanda where there's a confrontation, and the weather and wind was incredible on that day. It was like the trees were really whoosh, you know, really up, and there was a massive amount of wind in the trees, and there was sunshine coming through the trees and kind of dappling the lane, and it was really kind of energized, you know, it was a really energized moment in the day. And because we had a short time to film that moment in the day, whereas if we'd been on a conventional schedule, by the time we turned around, the wind would have probably dropped and the sun would have moved, and the moment would be a kind of then we would be facing different issues and problems of matching and trying to compensate. So in that respect, you know, when you're moving that quickly, you're able to capture an energy and of nature, really, which is often really difficult when you're really shackled to a kind of a heavier, longer, you know, track sort of laden schedule. So I without being over positive, which is probably one of my worst qualities, and you know, obviously there's massive drawbacks to the whole process with a low budget, both in production and post-production, but you know, that is definitely something I would say I enjoyed, is that immediacy of light and weather and wind. So there are many positives. Also, when you have a DOP like Ryan, who's ready for it. So
look, obviously, you want to direct again, I take it. Do you want to do another movie?
Yeah, I want to do another movie, or you know, I'm just starting to think about you know, I feel like sort of like the sort of the uncertainty of you know, everyone. I've had a couple of acting gigs, and I'm now just thinking about what I want to do next. And but you know, I've got a TV thing that I'm working with a writer, and hopefully potentially that's something that might evolve into a directing gig. At the moment, we're just kind of talking. There's one thing that I really want to write up as a film, but you know, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about. It feels like there's so much TV that, you know, the film it's an interesting phenomenon now. You know, movies are not quite as you know, TV is the kind of thing
lucrative, and it's easier to get them made, right?
Made, isn't it? So that's a tricky thing. It feels like there's a certain kind of budget and nature of and type of film which is more likely to get made, and I think that micro budget sort of window, but maybe temporarily, has kind of closed. So I don't know. You know, we'll see.
I think with TV, in fact, Giles and I had this discussion before we came on air. But it feels like, so with every feature I've done, it feels like you build up this head of steam, you make the movie, and it's like poof, it's just out, done, and that's it. Whereas I think with TV, there feels like you can write something. You're not restricted in terms of Obviously, we're all restricted in terms of budget, but certainly in terms of time and scale. You know, there's a bigger canvas to tell your story, and also you can dip back into it without feeling cheap or something. That's kind of the way it sort of feels in a way.
Yeah. I think there's the fine line for you know, something like The Fight. It'd be very difficult to make on TV because of all the unions and the rules. But then you go that little bigger level in terms of budgets and scale, etc., and having cranes and all sorts. And suddenly the feature film can then play to a bigger scale in terms of the cinemas when they come back round, which can then sell, which is better for the filmmakers. Often in TV, with someone who's written it or filmed it, there's not much afterlife sometimes of these things, whereas the film can go on, you know, much like, I don't know if I'm talking around in circles, but I feel that indie films at this level sort of have to be made by let's kick bollocks scramble, let's go make it, and that's what the joy is. What would you take forward to your next film that you've learnt from making The Fight? Image,
you know, telling it in pictures, just like massively. You don't need words, you know, they get in the way most times, you know, and it doesn't matter how many times somebody tells that to you, it's really hard to know. But I know that now, and I know that you know, you can tell once you understand your world and your characters and the emotional story you're going to tell, you can tell that on screen. You can tell that story in pictures. You don't have to spell anything out, you know, because everything comes across if you know what you're trying to explore. So it's exciting. I think when I think about what I might want to do next, I mean, and at the moment I'm kind of writing around it. I don't know, you know, I'm kind of like, there's a story and characters that I want to explore. But again, I think a lot of people probably with, you know, stories and ideas are thinking, oh, could I write it for TV? Because is it more likely to get made? You know, I'm more likely to. So it's really just, I think, exploring, you know, that possibility if you want to, but also maybe having the confidence to go, no, it's a film. It's definitely a film. It could be a film, and it should be a film. An idea I'm playing around with is bigger budget, but I'd love to make another really low budget. I don't know what the market is for that, and I don't know where the opportunities are.
I don't know if it matters what the market is, because I think if you just it's always if you chase.
I just don't know who's going to give me the money.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? But then, like I said, CJ's right. Sometimes chasing, the vampire film's hot now, let's do that, or this type of. Sometimes actually having, like, The Fight came out of nowhere in terms of there wasn't any films like that, you know, so therefore that was already more interesting than everyone else who was doing Paranormal Activity.
I really, you know, I hold on to things, you know, like I'm sure like we all do, you know, like you're holding on, like not Big Cat, but the one that you won't tell me about.
Yes.
There's something very much about wanting somehow to feel like you can give them life at some point, you know, you can introduce them as a concept to an audience, or, you know, at some point down the line you'll be able to. So I suppose I kind of like, you know, I've got this particular idea and these characters, and I'm kind of writing it out. To be honest, I'm writing it out in prose right now. I felt like in the last year I didn't know really when I would get a chance to kind of actually film it. It's often just about, you know, just sitting down and getting on with it and writing it down and as a film, and then just seeing where it leads.
Yes, sometimes that's the best way. Just get it out, you know, get the story out. There's a story in you.
I give that advice all the time and then never ever take it.
Yeah, but at least we're saying it out loud. Eventually we might take that advice. Jess, honestly, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure.
Jess, are you on socials in any way? Can people find you on?
I am not on socials. I can be found. I mean, if you want to get in contact with me, you can always find me through independent talent group, through Samira Hynes. She represents me and she passes all information, everything to me. So that's the best way to contact me in that way. And on that, you can follow us on Twitter at FilmmakersPod. Amazing. So yeah, do go do that if you're on Twitter and you don't feel it's the spawn of Satan. It's been so nice talking to you. It's been a pleasure. It's been really good. It's been a real pleasure. I've really enjoyed that a lot. Made me feel magic. I feel magic. And you should do, because The Fight is really cool. It's out now. Amazon Prime. Go watch it. Remember, if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it's your duty, as Jess has done, to send the elevator back down. You can go make your indie film. You can make it happen. Go do it. Next week's podcast, we have the absolutely delightful Matthew Butler-Hart and the equally delightful Tori Butler-Hart talking all about their latest movie that they filmed in lockdown, Infinitum, Subject Unknown, which they filmed with just the two of them.
Oh yeah, and they also got Ian McKellen to star in it. But so that's next week's episode for you. I am going to go and get some sun in Folkestone and take my dog for a walk down there. In the meantime, thank you all so much for listening. You're all amazing. CJ, thank you, buddy.
Thanks, pleasure. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone. See you next Tuesday. Bye.